Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Handmade by Ying with Donna. Today is Thursday, July the 15th, and welcome to my channel. My special guest today is Brenda of Conquering Mount Scrapmore. Hello Brenda and welcome.
Hi, Donna. How are you doing?
Amazing, and I thank you for your time today, and I know life is busy where you're at, and between our grandkids and life and our sewing and businesses, it is what it is. So I appreciate you squeaking in some time for me.
Yeah, no problem there. I've had nothing but fun with this business here too. Speaking of the business of, I don't
Right.
sell anything, right? But it's a business, I guess. We have to kind of
Right.
consider it to be a business.
Yeah, that's what we call it, the business. You know, I donate more than we do in revenue, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I know. I make nothing but charity quilts now, so I
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's just fun. I like to see the aspect of it when it's coming to life from my scrap bins. I
Yes,
love that.
yes, very much so. It's on
Absolutely.
that, yeah.
So I'm gonna hit into some questions for you. Um, how did you ever get started into quilting?
Well, there's a very long story, but we'll try to give you the condensed version. My mom and grandmothers were both all quilters, all of them. And they used, as a little one, they would chase me out of the sewing room all the time because they were afraid I'd get stabbed or whatever with, all the sharp stuff. And I was constantly into their scraps and their bins of stuff. And it was just, as soon as they sat in there, the redhead was there. So they were like, oh God, right? So mom had us over at the neighbor ladies because I grew up in a farming community and we were she was babysitting us and she was hand piecing a Fortrell quilt. Now, women at that time, they would piece with whatever they had. They wouldn't necessarily look for good quality cotton. They would just piece with, you know,
Whatever they had.
these are our scraps. So I watched her hand piece this bow tie block, and there was four bow ties on the whole block. That was her block that she was making, and I was just mesmerized. So, and I was very quiet, and I just watched her, and I was just like, "Mm." And then she finished, and she said, it's time for bed." I said, "Okay, but can we do this tomorrow again, right? Can I watch you again?" She's like, "Well, maybe, like go to bed." So off I went, and a couple of Sundays later, I met this woman at our church again, and she gave me she had made one too many blocks, so she gave me a block for her doll, for my doll. And she says, "You'll have to take it home and get your mom to show you how to hand quilt it so you can make a nice little quilt for your doll." But, and mom thought, okay, yeah, she's gonna stab her finger once, twice, maybe, and that's it. We'll never see her in the sewing room again. So I actually learned how to hand quilt before I learned how to hand sew, and before I learned how to sew on a sewing machine.
How cool is that?
And I had that doll blanket around here for I don't know how long, and I think we had a dog that kind of ripped it up and destroyed it. But I mean, this thing was just, it was for trail, right? I mean, nobody nowadays would ever consider working with that material because
Right.
it's not done. But that's one of the things that people forget. Women worked with what they had, not
Absolutely.
run to the quilt store and buy the newest, greatest, latest, right?
Absolutely.
So, and that I think is making a big difference on how I look at quilting too now, right? Because it was like, well, you work with what you got and you hope for the best, right?
Absolutely. And it makes good sense to me.
Yeah.
Someone else's scraps are my treasures, is the way I look at it.
Yeah, so I was probably like five or six. Maybe I wasn't very big. I wasn't very old when that happened. But I mean, and of course, then it's like, then your mom buys you Barbie patterns, and you start sewing Barbie clothes, and you start, other little things that your hands sewing together, and it would keep me busy for hours. Mom would give me a little pile of scraps and this pattern, and I would go cut and I would sew, and I'd be busy for hours and hours.
Isn't that cool though?
Yeah, just, yeah, but
And that's where you get the interest, you get the bug, you
yes,
know? I
yes,
really
very much
believe that.
so.
So I jumped ahead of myself, started right into the interview, but I need to trickle back for a second.
Sure.
I I neglected to say, can you tell me a little bit of your life history, like husband, animals, kids, grandkids? Give me the trickle down of the life of Brenda.
I have two daughters that I just love beyond words. And they've both become very important. Like they're happy with their life. So I guess I've done a good job being
You've
a
done
mom.
a good job.
The husband I am married to is just so supportive and so wonderful, and he does all the filming and all my film editing and all this stuff. And it's kind of like I'm the face and the creative part of what we're doing here, and he does all the lighting, the camera, the editing, and then I do all the downloads and all the writing and the show notes as to what's in there, and I kind of take care of the YouTube replies and the Facebook page and all that. But he is just so supportive. I have three grandchildren, two boys and one girl, one little girl. Oh my God, she's stolen my heart big time. But yeah, I worked outside the home for many years, and I retired at 55. So it was kind of okay. Now what do you want to do, right? So it took a while to, but I had been quilting for years, right? So I would quilt and then I would knit for a while. Then I would quilt and I'd cross stitch for a while. Then I would quilt and do something else. So I've always ran home to mama when it came to, okay, what do I want to do now? So
Absolute.
yeah, it was kind of like, and pretty much the close friends that have said they wanted quilts or whatever, pretty much everybody's got quilts that I know pretty much now for me. So it's like, so I had to kind of change my energy to, well, let's make charity quilts, let's teach quilting, right? There wasn't a lot of people that I knew that were quilters because I'd quilted by myself for so long, right? So you got to go out and get some friends and go hang out and have fun, right? So
I've met so many interesting people through the YouTube channel that I never. I'm like you. I retired at 55,
yeah,
and mine was the COVID outbreak, and that put the damper on all of us because you're locked down. What am I gonna do?
yeah.
So I get it, but I never thought in a million years the little bit of mask making. I'm
How
saying
many
a little bit,
masks did you
like
get?
4,500 masks.
Did you get
But
talked into 4,500? I got talked into what, 4 or 500 masks,
yeah,
and
I
I,
did.
I was like, because we did the nurses, the police, and the firemen, and it was just
Yeah,
like, and after that, it was like, I'm not doing any more
yeah. I started,
masks. I was
or
maxed out.
yeah, I was emergency room and volunteer fire and EMS here within our community. We didn't have masks. We didn't have anything. We were all blindsided like everywhere else. So a couple of my seamstress girlfriends were like, "Can you help us?" And I was like, "I can't sew. I can't help you." No, go pick up. People in our community was donating T-shirts. We were literally cutting T-shirts, putting coffee filters,
Yeah.
and doing what we had to get that initial batch out. Yeah, but my home, after I want to say probably like 2 weeks in, turned into a mask making. We didn't eat on our dining room table for months. My husband went out and got me a sewing machine, and it was from sun up to sundown mask making, dropping them off A, B, and C. It was crazy, and we kept a ledger just to see 40. It was 4,500 of my own, and then with my kids' help, and we added another two. And I told him if I ever see another mask, I swear I'll scream.
Yeah, we're still using the masks that I made, right? And they were just a square that was folded.
Yeah, the
And
three
yeah,
fold.
yeah, the quick fold, and because they were quickest to do on a straight stitch machine, right? So it was like, yeah, we did hundreds. It was like, and I didn't even make a dent in my stash making hundreds.
Oh, I can believe it.
So
It was crazy. Did you when did you start your YouTube?
um well, I I had gotten some students, people that are just generally interested in, learning how to quilt, right? And they were sitting there. It was kind of like, if you put these things on videos, these lessons that you're teaching us on videos, we could go back and refer to them. I was like, well, I kind of didn't want to start a website. I wasn't charging people to show them how to quilt or anything. And sometimes you talk to the person if they're either into hand quilting, that okay, you would start the lessons one way. If they were into machine sewing, you'd start the lessons another way, right? So it was
Right.
kind of like so. And people were asking, okay, all right, fine. So I talked to Les, and we talked about it for months. And finally, we said, well, hell, heck with it. Let's just start. Let's do an intro. Let's do a couple of test run videos and, all the rest of the stuff. And basically, we started because people asked us to. And it was like, okay.
How cool is that? Where,
And it wasn't, like I just kind of like, it wasn't something that I was charging for. It's like, how the heck am I going to make this into a business? Like, and I
right.
said, like, the minute it becomes work and you're not happy, this
You're
is,
done.
yes. And I sat there, yeah, you're right. Because this needs to be fun. Because
Right.
quilting's not about pressure. These people that go into jury shows and all that, I get my hats off to them. I make comfort quilts and I make quilts that are utility, right? Like they're to be used, right? They're to be on,
Abs-
somebody's bed or couch or whatever, and you know, that's it.
right. I followed Jean Truelove and did one of her, I think it was the 2020, and I only did it because it was the year of the COVID. So
Yes.
I took all the mask scraps. I learned how to do a Dresden, and I swore I would never do another one. Now that I've saw your tutorials,
Yeah.
I'm ready to entertain trying it. But as a new quilter, I bit off more than I could chew with it. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
had never done it. So I didn't know about the turning them inside out and all that. So you can imagine I had to do a lot of seam ripping, picking, and learning. And that's how we grow.
Yes, and that is how people grow. You challenge yourself every time you sit down and make yet another quilt. Okay, what can I do differently to challenge myself? What can I do to make this mine? Right?
Abs-
Whether it be just playing with the color palette or whatever. Yeah, what can I do to make this my art? Right?
Absolute.
Yeah.
You find that quilting is like a stress reliever for you?
Yes, it
It's
is.
like relaxing.
One of the quilt that's behind me was our there's a group of us where we were getting together online, and it was this is our my pandemic house quilt, right?
Oh,
Challenge
okay.
was, okay, tell a story with house blocks that you design. You have to design your own house block. It can't be like something that pattern that you pull out. And now tell a story. Well, when you look at this is the story of the pandemic and the first few months of the pandemic, right? And there's our house here was taken over by rabbits.
Oh,
We had all the animals and everything. Like, it was because people were staying home and kind of sheltering in place. All the animals came out and go, where did everybody go?
right. They were probably like, wow, we've been hiding for years.
My husband went out to put garbage in the alley. He saw a coyote trotting down the alley, and of course Les is like, right. But yeah, it was like there was coyotes and all the rest of the stuff. Yeah, it was weird. We were down in Tucson when Tucson, Arizona, when our Prime Minister Trudeau called the pandemic and told Canadians to come home. And we kind of looked, Les and I kind of looked at each other and was like, okay, wait, this is going to be crazy. Going back through the border, like, like,
Oh, wow.
okay, what can we do so we avoid the crazy traffic heading north? And so we decided to stay in place where we were until the crazy was over. Well, we were hearing stories of 75-year-olds driving without stopping because there's no hotels, there's no food. They had a hard time finding gas. It was just like they were sleeping on the side of the road. And it
Oh,
was
my
like,
word.
No, we're not doing that. No, and they were getting home in like 3 days or 34 hours or whatever. But it was like, I'm not, I'm too old. We sleep on the side of the road
Yeah, there's no
in
way.
a car, in a truck with a cat in a kennel. No, this is not happening. So, Les, we decide, okay, we'll stay in place. When we left, there was no traffic on the road anywhere. We were like 2 weeks behind, and yeah, it was like we flew through Vegas in like under 20 minutes or 25 minutes, and we,
Oh my
we were in
word.
the speed limit. And there was like maybe five or six other cars on the roads in Vegas.
That's
I was,
crazy. I see. I never thought outside of my community. I knew it hit everywhere,
yeah.
but ours it was like a um, ghost town per se.
Well, this is the first. I was taking pictures of the Vegas skyline because it was the first time you really could take pictures of the skyline because there was not all the smog. It was really
Oh,
sharp, clear pictures. We got through. We bypassed Phoenix. We didn't go through there. Then we went to Vegas. Then we hit Salt Lake City, and we were through Salt Lake City in under 30 minutes. And
oh my
there
word.
wasn't a lot of traffic in Salt Lake City. And then of course all the way up, it was just okay. Here we are. And they let us in. They told us we had to quarantine. Yeah, we get it. We've got all that stuff in place when we get home. Yeah, people are going to be bringing us groceries. It's not going to be a problem. So yeah, but it was a very weird drive because there was nobody on the roads at that time.
Oh, I
And
can't
so
imagine.
I can't imagine trying to cross the border into Canada because I'm from Alberta, Canada, right? So
Oh, okay.
I would I couldn't imagine trying to cross the border with all that panic coming back, right?
Oh, see, I didn't even think about y'all being ordered back home, you know? I knew we were told shelter in place here by our local governor.
Yeah,
And the president and the vice were like, no, y'all stay where you're at. I never even thought about the travelers.
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, and it's. I'm looking forward to going again back down there, but I mean, we'll have to see, right? What's going to happen here over the next little bit.
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, this, like I say, but this was the story. So you had to tell the story of what all happened, and the city had to come dig up our alley because there was a gas leak. It was just so there's little construction vehicles. Basically, I used fabric to tell the story. So I had some fabric with, a backhoe on it, and I had fabric, and I just kind of start plugging it in there, and it's quite the crazed quilt.
But that is adorable. I thought you were just piecing houses. I never realized it had such a beautiful story, you know?
Well, there's some very dark parts to that story too, because the people out on the street, I pulled out my Cinco de Mayo fabrics that I had been collecting with all the skeletons.
Right.
If you're out partying, you're dead. If you're out on the street, you're gonna die. That kind of like that insane. And then I have I guess a couple more balloons with skulls, sugar skulls,
Oh,
hot air balloons going through the sky. And yeah, so I have a few more of those to put on there now because the death toll is much higher. So
mm.
yeah.
How's your numbers there now? Is it going up like it is here in the States?
The hospitals are full. Last time we were in ER for my husband, yeah, the hospitals were full.
Yeah, our COVID unit's full right now, and it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll ever go away.
Well,
I
when you look
either.
at the CDC website, yeah, we're going to be dealing with this for a very long time.
Oh, I think it's longer than what they ever anticipated by far.
Yeah.
Let me see. How old were you when you made your very first quilt? Not the little one that you pieced, but when you consider yourself that you've pieced and did a whole quilt. How old were you?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you're like,
I don't know if I did one when I was a teenager or not. I can't remember. I know I right away because I was also crocheting and knitting and all the rest of the stuff, right? So when my girlfriends started having babies, they're little babies, right? You're making blankets and crocheting and knitting, and I can actually knit faster than I can crochet, but normally
oh,
it's everybody else is reversed. But yeah, So I was doing a lot of that thing. I can't remember if I was making baby blankets or baby quilts at that time or not. I'm not sure. So,
Oh, wow.
but yeah,
Um, do you have a favorite part of quilting? Like, is it picking out of your stash? Is it what if you had to pick one thing that you like the most out of all of your quilting? What would you say it would be?
it's taking a block and changing it and then creating something new out of this. Now, on our channel, we're going to do a nosegay quilt along, and it's for free on our channel. And what I've done with the nosegay, now I'm just going to show you I'm pattern testing too, because I'm the pattern tester of this business. Um,
Awesome.
I hand pieced this, and this is a nosegay block. Now, normally nosegays are like this. They're only like 1/4 of it. So this one
Oh, okay.
quarter would finish at 5 inches, right? I've made it in 4 different sizes. Don't panic. You know, it's not just
Oh,
itty
I
bitty
was
little
gonna
ones
be
you're
like
doing. You're
five
doing bigger
inches
ones
is
too.
like this.
Yeah, 5 inch square finished. But I decided what I would do is I would take out that middle seam, right? And all of a sudden now this center lies perfectly flat, right?
Absolute.
Because it swirls on itself, right? So there's not the bulk. You're not dealing with all the bulk that you would if you
Right.
had four separate blocks that you sewed together like this, right?
Now, is
And
that
you would have all that
addressing?
extra seamage in that little spot there. So I like taking those traditional blocks and changing them a bit, just giving them a twist, and then doing something else with them. I also like sitting down with paper and pencil and drafting paper and okay, let's play, because my sunflower quilt, which I don't have here, but we did a sunflower quilt last fall, and it's all based on 60-degree triangles
Oh,
basically.
okay.
And that was so much fun to sit there and draw that out. And I drafted that one out over several different sizes. And the one I thought, well, okay, we'll teach hand piecing on this larger scale because it'll come together in a heartbeat. And it did. It came together just like bang right now.
How
And you've
cool.
got a big quilt. Oh, wait a minute, I do have it here. Do you want me to go? I'll just go
Oh,
grab it.
absolute.
So the sunflower quilt.
That is gorgeous.
Yes. And I've made this a couple of times, and I've got smaller versions of this quilt, but that's all based on 60 degrees, right? You
Really?
got a hexagon in the middle, and
Right.
then you play around with the squares, the joining squares, and the 60 degree, the 30/60,
Right.
and then your sashing is what puts it all together.
That's amazing. That is so gorgeous.
Yeah. Well, and that one, and people were very surprised how quickly that one came together. And the smaller version, I always tell people too, if you're going to hand quilt or hand piece, start with a tea mat. Because if you find you hate hand piecing, that you haven't got this massive quilt to do. You've just got a
Right.
little, like one little thing, that's maybe about this big that you can put a teapot of, cream and sugar on, and you're done, right?
Right.
Yeah, so you don't have to have this monstrous quilt you got to finish, right?
Right. It's going to be a love or a hate.
Well, exactly. But if you're also doing it, and it was large enough to finish by the sewing machine,
Oh,
right?
cool.
So yeah, because it's a 3 inch hexie in the middle, right? It finishes at 3 inches, so it's big enough that you could do it on a sewing machine.
Cool. Now that's going to be a free sew along on
Well,
your
no, that was a
channel.
free sew along last winter, and if you wanted to go grab the pattern, you're more than welcome to it.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
there's a
now,
playlist with all those videos.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll drop that on mine as well. That way, because that is so pretty. And let me see, your fall sew along. That is your nosegay, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And when's
And that
that
one's
kicking
going to
off?
be like you can either do it by hand or by sewing machine. Like I'll show you how to do both, right? So if you wanted to, do this. uh, a couple of the ladies commented on this, and they were going to do it in English paper piecing. They
Oh,
figured
wow.
they could do, like, once you draw out the pattern, right, and you have all the sizes, then they can just put it into their those Cricut cutter, those things,
Right.
and then cut all the cardstock for their English
Wow. See,
paper.
I'd have never even thought about that.
I don't have one of those cutters. I don't have a lot of fancy
You know, we're
tools.
plain and simple.
Yeah, I often think I should buy an Acu cutter or an Acu quilt cutter or something, and
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just like, where would I put it? Where would I put all the dies?
right. I heard that I've been directed I need one of those. I have no space. Space in my area is a premium. It
Yeah,
has to serve a purpose in multi purposes or it doesn't come in. We just don't
exactly.
have the room. And my husband and I looked at those, and you could get the crank one. Well, if I would get one, I would want to plug it in and hit the button and let it go. I don't want. If I'm going to do that, I might as well go ahead and do my cutting on my own.
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody I know that has them loves them. But the next best project, you got to buy another die, and then everything's like the snowball. Sorry, everyone. We had a little hiccup on our end with our power surge. It went out, and Miss Brenda hung tight for a few minutes while we could reboot and come back. Thank you for your patience.
Hey,
If
no
it's going
worries.
to happen, it's going to happen. When you live out in the rural communities, you never know. So, thank you. Do you want to pick up where we were?
I can't remember where we were.
We were talking about the little blocks in the hand sewing you were doing.
So,
Um,
yes, I always recommend to students, if you're not sure, start with something smaller. Go smaller, not bigger. Not, so it might be a table runner might be too big if you're just learning how to hand sew, but like something smaller, like a little tea mat or basically something to cover up a little end table, that's probably the
Perfect.
right size because it's not too big. It's not this, unwielding hard thing that you got to worry about, right? So,
Absolute. And I'm going to pull from some of my stock questions.
okay.
Um, one of them is, do you have a sewing room? Absolutely, because I follow you, so I see your sewing room.
And it's
The
not
other one
big. It's not
is
big. It's 10 by 12 feet. It's not huge, right? You can do lots in a small space, and you just have to be organized, right? Like that's probably okay. Where is this? Where is that? You need to know and be able to put your hands on things right away.
absolute. And I, I tell my husband I'm OCD. Everything's got to have its place. Everything's got to be labeled. So when I
Yeah,
tell him I need you to go get bin number 2, I know what's in that. So he'll
yeah,
go grab it or whatever.
yeah.
So it's organized chaos per se. What kind of sewing machines have you had in the past? And what do you currently sew on now? That's a viewer question.
That I do. Well, I have a 301A Singer that I just love. I have my mom's black one, and I also have a beige one as a backup because I just love the way that straight stitch machine makes an absolutely perfect straight stitch. A lot of people don't realize when you're on a zigzag machine that will make a straight stitch that when you look under a magnifying glass, it's a little tilted. And that takes
That's
room in your quarter-inch seam, right? That
absolutely
that 301A is just perfectly straight, so pretty, so straight, just it's lovely. I did get a Janome 3000, heavy duty 3000. Wow. It's got just a few basic stitches, like the zigzag and the feather stitch and a few other utility stitches, right? And it's not computerized at all because I've had horrible luck with computerized machines, and I love it. It's a hard working workhorse, I guess. I did,
absolute.
I did have a Husqvarna. I blew the motherboard on there because it's all computerized and I had like hundreds of stitches, and I blew it and the motherboard out, and it's a $900 repair, and
Ooh,
I haven't sewed on it even a year. So I was not impressed I am not impressed with these computerized machines at all.
That's how I am. I'm not at all.
Yeah, I'm just okay. It has all these stitches. Okay, that's fine. But if you really want to wow somebody, you know how you do applique and you top stitch along, and sometimes you fall off and you wobble.
Right.
It doesn't look so great. Do a hand blanket stitch over it with embroidery floss. People just go crazy about, oh, you hand embroidered this. And it's like, I hand embroidered it to cover all sorts of sins, but that's fine too. You want to believe I'm awesome? Okay.
I'll take that pat on the back. Absolute. I have a goal. If you're standing 5 feet back and you can't see
Yeah.
a mistake, I know it's there.
But
But
yeah, it's amazing what people think when you put a little bit of hand stitching on those blocks, those simple applique blocks. They just and they see it's done by hand. Yeah, like other quilters just it's like,
oh, that's so cool though.
yeah,
Now, have you ever used one? I call it the treadle machine. Have you
yeah.
ever tried one of those? Do you like those?
Yes, some of those treadles they're tough. You have more precision because of the speed in which it goes, and you have more control actually. But
Right.
you have to be more in rhythm with your machine and your feet because you'll snap your thread like a heartbeat. You're
Absolutely.
not. If I had to sit and do work a treadle machine now, I would probably have to. Okay, it's going to take a while just to figure this out. But yes,
Right.
yeah, I do love the treadle, and you do have the precision there that you don't have with the modern machine.
Absolute. I've got a couple ladies that have sent in questions and they're like, we still use our treadle machines. And they say it's like driving a clutch, they're constantly, they get into their groove. They know how to do it. And I'm like, I'm stuck with my baby lock. I
I
use the baby
and
lock Jazz. It's my workhorse and I
Yeah,
love her.
yeah. In Tucson, I have a baby lock and a 1915 Singer, and I believe it's a 3115,
How
and it was
cool.
an embroidery machine. When I call it Brutus. When Brutus was alive, Brutus was an embroidery machine, and he's got an extra wide throat, so it's just like you can like free motion quilting on him. No problem. You can't feed the quilt in fast enough now because it's been motorized.
Oh, got
But
ya.
it is fast to do quilting
Oh, how cool is that? Now, do you long arm or mid arm, or do you just do it all in your domestic?
now. Well,
A lot of questions. People want to know.
I was doing all my free motion quilting on my 301A, right? And
Oh,
a lot of
wow.
people are like, good grief, how do you handle a big queen size quilt on a 301A? Well, I've done a king size on the 301A. But I mean, you just have to figure out, you're only
Maneuvers.
working in a small space like this, right? You know, um, but you have to kind of figure it out a little bit, push and shove and roll the quilt or whatever, and kind of throw it up over your arm, and then you're only working in a little area, so you're only doing little areas at a time. My husband and I last year we did buy a long arm, and we put it in a room with too much furniture and you couldn't get around the long arm, so the long arm sat for a year, and it was just like last weekend that Les clean what we finally managed to get all the furniture out of there. What was it, Karen Brown from Just Get It Done calls it, the squatters in the room? Yeah, we finally got
Yeah.
all that out. So now it's now I have to reread the machine, the manual again, because I have no idea how to even turn it on now anymore.
What kind did you end up getting?
We bought a used Fath, and I think it's 11-inch, 11-foot rails or something like that. It just fits
Oh,
in that room, but it is supposed to be doing, it's basically a sewing machine on a floating rail bed.
right.
So I mean, there it looks like it's not going to be that difficult to operate, but it's now okay. I have to start rereading everything again. So
Absolute. Like we've got the baby lock gallant. We went with the 8 foot and the 2 foot extension to make it a 10 foot. But space is a premium and it takes up the whole wall. In
Yeah.
order for me to get behind it, I've either got to go under it or he has to pull it out, let me get back there for me to do pantographs.
Yeah.
So it's all learning.
Oh yeah, and it's, I mean, for the first little while, I mean, if all I do is get straight stitch quilting out, I mean, I'll be happy with that. But it's like I have UFOs piled up to my hip.
Oh, you'll have so much fun with it though. Honestly, the easiest way that I could explain it to you if you've never used one is like we're used to moving the paper under the pencil per se.
Yeah.
Now you're going to be drawing on the paper. So it's so cool because you're moving your machine over the fabric and
Yeah.
you can get so many amazing designs. Mine's not computerized to where I can type in what it needs. I have to do the work,
Yes.
but
It's the same here.
that's what we
Yeah.
wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just neat the different things.
Well, it gives you a different level of, the art too, right? I mean, when you're doing your own free motion quilting, and it it's like the quilt behind me is very intensely quilted, right?
Mhm.
There's different motifs in all of those. Like the houses have little stripes, and the roofs have the little gingerbread house, the
Right.
shells, and the doors have teardrops, and
It
but
just makes it nicer. You can put your own touch into it instead of
yeah,
just clicking the buttons. By the time I base down something, I'm not crawling on the floor anymore. I'm not basting on a bed. He's not getting stuck with pins anymore.
yeah,
So it's a win-win, you've lived it.
yeah. We've
And I
done
told him, I said, I'm to the point I'm too old to crawl on the floor and pin based.
that. Yeah.
Can't do it anymore. Um, does your family like all the quilts you make and what's their thoughts on what mom's doing?
Um, my daughters have asked that I no longer make them quilts because they've got like, something like 13 or 14 quilts, whatever each. And the grandkids have got a bunch of quilts already for, their crib, and then their twin size, and then they've got a cuddle quilt, and they've got something else on top. So they probably got
Right.
3 quilts each. So now when anything I'm doing like hand piecing and hand quilting, I'm putting in kind of a chest, right? Like
A
a hope
cedar
chest.
chest, kind of.
Yeah, a hope chest for them and they'll get it when they marry, where they've got like a bunch of hand quilted, hand pieced quilts
How
from
cool
me.
is that?
And so yeah, so I'm building that up slowly, but I just got to talk my husband into making the box.
Absolute. But
He's
that
like,
is such a good idea,
yeah.
because like my daughter's kind of like yours. Okay, mom, you've quilted us enough.
Yeah, well, they're okay. They'll accept things like pillow slip covers and pillowcases, things that, like table runners and stuff. They're okay with those kinds of things, but it's now like, yeah, mom, we've got enough quilts.
Yeah,
But
absolute.
occasionally I make one and they snag it, so it's like, yeah, okay.
Absolute. I don't mind if it walks out of the door for my kids or grands. That's
Yep,
okay.
yep, that's where I'm at too.
Now, do you prefer to cut with scissors or a rotary cutter?
Depends on what I'm doing.
I like the
I
precision.
had a very close encounter with a rotary blade that cost me 9 stitches in my finger.
Oh no.
And that was, yeah, it was quite painful, and I ended up with a concussion because I passed out because it hurt so bad.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
so yeah, like I was in the hospital here for hours, and they weren't stitching me up because they were more worried about what was going on in my head. And like I say too, it depends on what I'm doing. I mean, if I'm doing a bunch of hand piecing, pulling out hand pieces, and all the pieces are little weird little things, it's actually easier than to draw around a little plastic template and
Oh,
and cut it
absolute.
out with scissors, right? Than it is to sit there and try and rotary cut around a little plastic template that you're shaving off every time.
Parts.
Kind of, yeah, it's kind of.
It it depends on the project.
Depends on the project. Most of the time, though, when I'm dealing with my scraps and I'm going through like a scrap donation, and I have a bunch of long, narrow pieces that are perfect to make little bricks and rectangles out of, or strips or whatever, I'm got a rotary cutter. That
Oh,
has changed the way we quilt so much. I mean, I remember my mom, slowly cutting, and and they wanted to make sure it was on grain, and oh yeah, it was
Oh yeah, there was a lot of the girls at my church were talking about how they had to line everything up perfect, or they would do it with pinking shears so nothing frayed on them if they had to go against the bias.
yeah.
And it was just the way they cut. Um, this is cute. Where do you buy your fabrics? Where do you get all of that amazing fabric at?
I well, there's quite a few quilt stores here in Edmonton that I go to, but I over the years I have acquired my stash because of traveling to the States, or going out on road trips with girlfriends, or this kind of like going to trade shows or whatever. So I've accumulated fabric over years. This is what you're
Oh,
seeing, right?
absolutely.
It's not like I didn't go out and spend 60,000 on fabric. No, I couldn't afford that.
No,
But
I
I
think
mean, so I'm buying mostly at quilt stores, and I am a great supporter of, okay, before you even now go to Amazon, go to your local quilt store. Give them the opportunity to go get something for you first. And we're
absolute.
fortunate here that, we have a few of them to choose from. So, and most of them, they'll jump at the chance of getting you something if they don't have it in stock. And it gives them an opportunity to help you as a customer, right? Um, if you don't support those local little quilt stores, they go under,
Absolute.
right? I mean, even if you had to go in and just buy a spool of thread once a month, I mean, that's more support than what some of them, like it's more support than going to Amazon and pulling down 12 spools of thread can be shipped at your door and dropped off tomorrow morning. I mean, yeah, give them the opportunity first.
Oh, I'm with
Protect
you.
your small business.
Absolutely. Do you have a specific quilt that you're actually actively working on now? Do you like focus on one until it's done, or do you like project hop?
You
I'm
mean
all over
like the
the place.
squirrels? Oh, squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. I know. My UFOs typically stop. I typically stop at the quilting stage, right? Because I mean, quilting takes a lot of time for me. But as far as works in progress, I don't know if you are aware of the Bonnie Hunter Crazy Pineapple.
Yep.
Okay, I love that project. When I'm like so stressed out that things are not going well, nothing's working, everything's going wrong, I I pull it out and I sew on it. And it's just, by the time I've sewn like for 4 hours on it or whatever, it's been like I've been at the spa. It's wonderful. I am just okay. Let's go deal with the problems now, right? Um,
Exactly.
but that one's sitting in a closet, and I don't have to really worry about it. I used to, before I started my YouTube channel, have time to sew 100 string blocks a month,
Mm,
right? Because I mean, like string blocks are fast. Like they're fast charity quilts, right? You can put them together and put all
right.
sorts of bright, fun colors together, and some kid will love it because it's just chaos, right?
Right.
Um, yeah, I kind of bounce around a little bit because there's squirrels, and I try now to write my ideas down, but also date my ideas, right? So it's kind of like, okay, so I have this idea. Okay, I can't get to it now because there's so many other things in the way. Okay, I'll put a date on it and then we'll work on it later. Um, right now, behind my computer, my laptop, I'm working on a Christmas kalandi for one of my daughters. And I mean, okay, we try and get Christmas gifts done for the kids, so in the middle of all with all my free time, right?
Right.
I'm trying to get Christmas gifts done. So yeah, it's kind of, yeah, yes, there's a lot of squirrels. There's a lot of squirrels. I'm
Yeah,
not
you wouldn't number them.
like, it's just, and then of course, when we film, my husband and I figured, okay, so the makeup's on, the hair's done, that the clothes, all this stuff, right? You might as well do more than one. So I mean, we're trying to film ahead so we have time to take a weekend off and go see the grandkids, or we have time to, just just to hang out and entertain. So we're trying to get those done and up and ready to a point where, well, we just put out like five. or film
Right.
3 in 1 day or something like that. And you just load them up, you schedule them out, you're done.
That
So
makes perfect sense.
yeah.
That was going to be one of my things. How many videos would you say you purge out per week? That's a
Uh,
subscriber one.
so if we have time to film, if we have we have if we have time to film, because I'm doing all sorts of other things too, right? So if we have time to film, we'll do 3 in 1 day. And this week, for instance, we're filming Monday and we're going to be filming Friday. But next week, I think we're only filming Tuesday, right? So it's like, okay, when's the next film day, right? It's kind of like, okay, what do I have to have ready for that too, right? So
Right.
it's like, you know, it's a lot of running around
It
sometimes.
is. I've got my whiteboard and I pencil in my schedule and I'm like, okay, tell me what we need to pre-record. And he does the thumbnails and he does all the stuff, just like
I,
your husband.
I wake up every morning with this phone and it's like, oh, this is what I'm going to do today. And there's like Monday is the traditional look at your week. And then
Right.
there's been times I'm gonna fire that office manager, and then I go, oh yeah, I'm the office manager.
I
I
love
have
your
so dates
mindset
set up.
though.
I have so dates set up for with friends too, right? You just want to go hang out and do something.
You
That's the other thing.
decompress. I love that.
Yeah. One of the
Um,
things too we started with our Facebook group and the YouTube channel is we dedicate a day, 1 day a month, where the viewers and the Facebook people, right, can come hang out and sew.
that I got my idea from you doing that. And we just did our first, we're doing the Bargello. We're doing ours. You can do the Bargello with me, or you can bring your own project.
Yeah.
And that was quite receptive. We did it Saturday, but we did it midnight to 3 a.m. I don't know what I was thinking when I picked that time, but it turned out to be really a fun time.
Well, one of the things too with our group, because I don't know, we're collecting people like at the last so day. We had ladies from Germany, Italy, Switzerland,
Oh,
England,
how cool.
and of course Chile, and then Chile, and of course the U.S. and Canada, and then Australia, New Zealand, and Australia. Right. So I mean, it was the people from the one lady from I believe it was Sweden. She's talking to this lady from Australia, and there's this woman there. God bless her. She sat there. My husband's never going to believe I have been sewing with people all around the world today. It's just like she said. It's
It's
just
mind
blowing.
blowing.
It's blowing me away. And they were talking about things that they had in common. It was like it was wonderful, right? So yeah.
It's a way to plug them in. I'm meeting people on my end. I know you are too, that we'll never meet in real life.
No, and that it's unfortunate, but at the same time, it's like what a wonderful growing experience we've got, this opportunity to meet all these other quilters from around the world, and like we have a lady, I believe she's in India, and she puts up just the most amazing hand embroidered stuff in our group that is just like
Oh,
it's all hand stitched, and it's like thousands of stitches, in a piece, and it's just like, oh my goodness, how long
oh,
did that take you to do?
absolutely. Now I loved sitting in with your sew group. I thought that was just amazing where you invited me to come sew. I just had such a nice time. And I hated that I couldn't stay longer, but grandkids, ball games, hopping in and out. It's
Yeah,
life.
yeah, life
And
happens, life happens.
absolutely. Um, are there any specific quilt books or magazines that you enjoy?
um well, I mean, I'm a Bonnie Hunter fan. I have pretty well. She doesn't ship to Canada anymore, so the latest the latest one I can't remember. It's a couple of years old already, so I have to look when we go back down to the States to order the latest greatest. I like Lori Holt, but Barbara Bachman's encyclopedia,
Ooh,
you know, that thing is full of ideas. Like, oh my gosh, every page has got
right.
more ideas. Um, they I also I try not to buy too many books, because if you buy too many books, it's like, now you've spent your money on books and you haven't got your money to spend on thread and fabric, right? So
Right.
instead of, I try to pick my books based on, these will generate these other ideas, right?
Right.
So yeah, but the Barbara Bachman book is like, yeah, very, very impressed with. And then I guess you go to Pinterest. I mean, I things like Pinterest, I just hate
I
because
do too.
I go
It's
to
a love
Pinterest.
hate.
I've got my clock here. The alarm, an hour. That's it. That's all you've got is for Pinterest today is an hour, and I'll set my alarm. And 3 hours later, I'm looking at giraffes. Like you start looking at quilt, and then you have no idea how you ended up with giraffe pictures, but it's kind of
Exactly. It's one click and then another click, and it takes you all over.
yeah. Especially with myself with the squirrels. Yeah, they direct traffic and
Yeah,
everything.
I have a squirrel book, and I'm doing like Karen Brown said, because in the beginning I was just like, whoa, I got to do this, I got to do this. And she said, write them down. If you haven't gotten to them in 6 months, you don't even need to print the pattern. So you're not throwing stuff away. So I've took this year and I'm following what she said. And it's so stinking hard because I want to do it all.
Well, exactly. And I quick sketch out. I have an idea book, right? And I come, ooh, and then quickly sketch it out in my crazy shorthand. And then I date it. I try, remember to date these. And then it's like, okay, then we go off and do other things. And it's like, and occasionally I'll go, okay, what is the really good idea that I had, and I've now got it all in one box. So when I die, my kids can just go, well, these are all mom's
Here's
ideas. Okay.
bonfire.
Yeah, here we go. Just chunk into the garbage. But I mean, I'll go through there and look for an old idea. Okay, why didn't I find this idea out? Like, why didn't I work? There was this problem. Oh, that problem. Oh, I didn't
Right.
figure out the colors right. Okay, let's play with this. Just pick it out randomly, right? I mean,
Oh,
because I do my own thing. I'm quite capable of drawing my own patterns, right? So it's
right.
like, yeah, as soon as you think of something cool and different, you just go for it, right? But that's not everybody can do that. And there's people that buy patterns, they never intend to sew, right?
That's
And
just
it's
wild to me.
unfortunate, but we can't make everything that we see. And, you know, I would imagine our grandmothers and our grandmothers would go through the Ladies' Home Journal and go, "Oh wow, look, isn't that pretty? Isn't that pretty?" And they would,
Right.
yeah, you
Yeah,
can't do
I'm
it all.
I'm a looker. I won't buy a pattern unless I know I'm actually going to do that pattern,
Yeah,
you know? And I used to print everything that was coming across the internet. I'd print it and I'd be like, oh, I know I can do that. And then it would sit. And then when she was doing her declutter, when it got to the printed fabric, the printed patterns, are you going to really make this? My taste has changed, or evolved. So it ended up
there,
trashed.
and there's something to be said about making your own pattern, right? A lot of people are forgetting that this is now unique. You're not buying the pre-stamped quilt at Walmart, like that like 50 other people in town have. You're making something that's uniquely yours.
Right.
Right? So I mean, yeah, okay, it's a little bit of art, maybe it's more expensive than you would spend, but I mean, yeah,
Absolute.
it's something to be said about it's yours, right? So
Oh, absolute. Let me see. You're like this one. Do you have any guilty pleasures of quilting?
guilty pleasures.
Yeah, that's what one of the questions that come in. Well, mine would be chocolate in my sewing room, but
I a lot of my best ideas came from granola bars and coffee.
that was going to be one of the questions. You allow beverages around your machines and your fabric stash And if so, what's your favorite beverage?
Water. I have stained, I have coffee stained fabric. I have, oh my. You know, just, and you're reaching for it and you're not really looking at it and you just tip it over once. Yeah, no, water. The only beverage I allow in my sewing room now is water.
Amen.
You
I've
know,
done that because you're sewing and you don't realize how close you are and you knock it over.
yeah, that's right. But when I'm coming, like sitting with a pad of graph paper and, you know, I'm designing, yeah, it's granola bar coffee.
That makes sense. Do you have a favorite color?
Oh, I love, I love them all, and they all have their place in my life. I do tend to gravitate more to blues, the blues, greens, purples, those jewel tones.
Oh, yeah.
But I try and play with all of the colors because I think it stretches me as a quilter. And you learn a lot about color by working with colors you wouldn't normally gravitate to, right?
Absolute.
When I did the one of the case studies, I decided, okay, we're going to pick a fall palette. So I was working with yellows, orange, reds, and brown. And I have a hard time with brown. I struggle with using brown. And it was like, I learned a lot about it. And I did make some beautiful quilts, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, no, we're giving these to charity and hopefully somebody will like them. But I'm kind of like, yeah, they're brown.
Right. Then one of the other questions that came in while we're sitting here talking for me to add to the list is what's your thoughts on Hexis? Do you like to do them and have you done a Hexie quilt?
Yes, I did a grandmother's flower garden at midnight. And what I did was, this was just, I must have sewed hexy flowers for I don't know how long. I thought it would never end. And I did have a lot of fun with them. And I have a few more that I'm working on now because there's sometimes you get fabric donated to you and it's like, what am I going to do with this?
Mm-hmm.
Make hexies because they're small, And so my grandmother's flower garden, um, it basically I put all the darkest blues into a jelly roll race. So it gives it a real beautiful wash behind. And then I took the flower garden and I made it swoop up into a curve.
Oh, that would be
And then I
pretty.
just applicated onto this quilt. And my daughter ended up with it. And I said, do you want me to put a hanging sleeve on it? Because this will be, you could hang it and use it for art if you wanted, or you could just use it as another quilt. And she looked at it, she said, Mom, this would be beautiful to cuddle with. Like she was just like, I don't want she could imagine her kids pulling it off the wall,
Right.
cuddle, right? So she was, yeah, no hanging sleeve, just make it for me. That's fine.
But that's so sweet.
Well, and it was kind of, and it's a very artsy look to it with that swooping through this kind of like a dark wash blue. And there was a lot of people who were like, wow. But I don't know. I had fun with it, but it was a lot of work, pinning it and then, you top stitch it all down in place and then you top stitch the other side. Yeah,
Oh,
it was a lot of
absolute.
fun though. But I learned a lot about, top stitching and applique and pulling out the papers. It was like,
Oh,
you don't
yeah.
want your quilt crunchy, so
I
you got to pull all the papers out. Yeah.
mm, yeah, that would be interesting. Um, would you walk us through a project, kind of like from your mindset when you design your project, how you choose your color palette, and then how do you make it come to your vision? How do you bring it to life?
Well, a lot of times what I'll do is like with the Dresdens, I'm overrun with green, right? So what happens is that I will pick my color palette based on what I'm being overrun with, right? Which I mean is not the right way to pick colors, but then I'll put another color with it or put other colors with it or to kind of balance it, but mostly green. Like with the Dresdens, I'm basically pulling only from greens and whites or the low volumes, right? That's it.
Right.
And a lot of people are like, really? And I go, you're making monochromatic quilts? I said, yeah, but it'll be okay.
Absolutely.
Because I'm going to use up lots of green and then I won't be overrun with it. And then I can start playing with it. there's people that play with color wheels and they have all the different ways of, and for me, it's got to be pleasing to me, right? And a lot of people forget, if it's your quilt on your bed, you have to like it. So if
Right.
those colors you're picking, you go wow, and somebody else goes, oh my god, really? Don't worry about it, right? Because it's on your bed, not hers.
I like your philosophy. I really
Yeah.
do. I don't do the color wheel either. I hold my fabrics, I pull my stash, and I see what's pleasing to me. And that's what I use.
The other thing I'll do too is I'll come up, okay, so I'll throw, okay, I'm being overrun with yellow, yellow, right? Whatever. And I'll throw, some swatches or scraps of yellow or fat quarters or whatever of yellow. Okay, what colors can I pick up in the fabric? Okay, let's
Oh,
pull those
cool.
out. Let's pull those out. Let's start playing with those colors. And next thing you know, like you've got a very cohesive palette that would all work together, and then you take, okay, do I have dark, medium, lights? Do I need that to figure out values? What's too light? What's too dark? Kind of thing, and you kind of start playing with it that way. And you just take a black and white picture with your phone.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do the black and whites.
Yeah, and it can be really an interesting way to look at your colors, because now it's all black and white. You have no idea what's yellow, what's blue, you don't know. The other way too is I teach students, I said, you go and you pick a focal fabric. And have I got a focal fabric here that I like? Oh, I've got more Christmas fabric. Oh, here we go. This is the Christmas stash. So let's say we're going to use this as our focal
Oh,
fabric.
that's pretty.
So you've got greens and browns and russets and cream, right?
Hmm.
So as long as you're kind of in that green and that russet and the browns, it works, right? Like you can pull from your fabric. You make a focal fabric. Let's say I had lots and lots of this, and I was going to use this
Right.
as my low volume. Well, I'd want to put it with colors that coordinate with it, right?
Absolute.
So you use those little dots on the selvage to pull your palette now.
Oh, okay.
And I go, yeah. Well, that way everything's gonna match. If you want it to match, you can have everything match now.
That's
But
a good idea. Absolute. I don't want to keep you a whole lot longer, but let me see. I want to make sure that the people want to know your business. Um, if you could estimate how much time per week that you dedicate for your soul, mind, body, and soul into quilting to decompress, what would it be?
okay. First off, I'm retired. So a lot of people get stressed out and they say, how can you produce so much stuff? I'm retired. I have
Absolute.
something better to do with my time. The other thing a lot of people don't know is I have fibromyalgia. So my brain is going at 8 o'clock in the morning. You should get up and sew something. It'll be fun. It's like, and my body's going, no, I need
Not
another hour of
today.
sleep. It's like, and so fibromyalgia likes routine, right? So I make sure that I get enough rest. Thank God I can sleep. A lot of people with fibromyalgia can't sleep.
Right.
Getting enough rest, then I get up and I get myself slowly marching towards the sewing room. But yeah, like I probably put in 6 hours a day,
Oh, easy.
easy to sew. And then I hand sew at night. So, but on my 6 hours a day on my vintage machine, yeah, at the end of the day, I oil it and, wipe it down. I wipe it, all the fluff off of it, and I oil it.
And it
And
doesn't feel like it's been 6 hours when you're sewing, does it?
no, no,
Yeah,
it
I
doesn't.
get
Especially
lost
when
into
you're on
my
a roll.
projects.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I don't have an alarm set that says go pick the kids up and be standing at the school, because I get busy and I'm like, I'm having a good time watching stuff come together.
Well, yeah, and it's just like one more seam, just one more seam. It's like, yeah. And I do have to be careful not to overdo it during the day, right? And to make sure I have, and this is something too, as we get older, not that we're old, we should make sure that we've got good posture, or our shoulders are down, and our sewing machine and table, everything. Like there's people on YouTube that do those. Where's your perfect table? Where should you, how your body should be at
Yeah.
90-degree angles and the perfect chair height and all this stuff. That's something important. You need to know how to do all that. And
Yep.
what I do too is I have one of those knockoff Fitbits.
Yep. Remind you to get up and walk.
Well, no, not it, mine never would during the day, right? It would never remind me to get up and go anywhere because I'm like a gerbil in here. Like I go from the sewing machine to the cutting table,
Oh,
100
it.
back, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm like, like this is my exercise wheel in my house. If I were a gerbil, yeah, this would be the exercise wheel. And there I would be putting on 12,000 steps a day.
Oh
Just,
my.
running around in my just this little, and this is a little room, right?
Right.
So it's kind of, yeah, to make sure that you stay moving and you keep moving. And I know on film, like when we're filming, I do a lot of finger pressing because I don't have to stop the film and go press something, right? So
Right.
I cheat, right? But then that block afterwards gets a really good press afterwards.
Oh, absolute.
Yeah. But I cheat and it looks reasonably well, like it looks pretty good. Because
I think everything comes together really nice.
well, you look at this rippling goose. I mean, this thing has not touched an iron has not touched it yet, and
How
it's
cool
like
is that?
yeah. So that's one of the free patterns that's coming up in September on my channel. But
Oh, that'll be cool. I'll be watching for that. That's so cool. I like that.
wow, yeah, it's part of the logo header for the Facebook group and the YouTube channel. It's this rippling goose thing with it's got flying geese and it's fun. It's a fun quilt to make.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to wrap up and I hope I can get you back on sometime. It's been fun.
Yes,
And
and come to the sew dates, Donna. They're a lot
I
of fun.
I will. Right. The sad part is I got grandkids that's in sports. So every Saturday morning from 8 to noon, I'm at a ball field somewhere in Maryland. But yeah,
Well, the one in October, we're gonna try and run a little bit later because
okay.
a lot of people are requesting that it be run later.
Oh,
So it'd
cool.
be
That
like
would be
9
amazing.
a.m. to 9 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, but we don't know which day yet because the voting is still going on.
Okay, I'm just gonna stick it up here so
Yeah.
day. That
Yeah, so
way
you
I'll
would be able to
remember.
come like later, so.
Absolutely. If I was afraid to hop on late
No,
because disturbing, but if you're good with it,
people hop in and out of there that meeting all day long. The last so date we had, I don't think we exceeded more than 36 people at one
okay.
time, but we had over 64 people show up that day.
How fabulous is that?
So and it
Oh,
was a wonderful exchange of ideas and and questions were asked and polls were taken and yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah.
oh, that would be so much fun. Thank you so much.
Yes.
But first and foremost, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to interview you, bring you over here to my channel. And the way that this is working out, I kind of like the joint collab here interview. It's going to be fun. Um, I welcome you to my channel anytime. The door's always open, or the Zoom, however you want to say it.
Well, once the
Um,
summer settles down and the grandkids and yeah, like hopefully I'm looking forward to getting back into watching YouTube again because the channels all need help. They all need somebody to hit that like button,
absolute.
hit the subscribe button, and I always look for small channels that are starting out just to give them, come on, you can do this
Right.
and say something nice because that puts you, the person who's actually saying something nice, puts you in a better mood.
Absolute.
So it's kind of a selfish thing to,
But it
say
makes you
something
feel
nice to you,
good.
Donna, so I'm in a better mood.
Right. But it really does. At night, I have my five. I channel surf, I watch a little bit, and then I'll make sure I go in and hit my comments. Sorry I'm catching you on the replay, but I love what you're doing. That power of positivity goes a long way.
Yeah. Even, yeah,
Absolutely.
even you wishing them a really awesome day or something You know, that is important, that they are getting some positive feedback, that, you know, that, wow, okay, we've touched somebody for just a little bit. Okay, okay, good.
Absolute.
Yeah.
And before I close out, I always end my interviews with if you could give anyone any words of encouragement, whether it's a viewer, a subscriber, a content creator, what words of encouragement would you give?
Um, One of the things I struggle, or I teach and I see my students struggle with, is color. And they go to the quilt store and they buy the big stack of, you know, 20 fat quarters or whatever, and they, you know, they try to put a quilt together with that, and it falls flat and they can't figure out why. And it's like, but then after a few quilts, they've got all their scraps and they throw that stuff together and it looks pretty good, and they're like, what the heck, what has happened here? So I tell people, I said, you know, if you have a friend that wants to learn how to quilt, let them play in your scraps. They will learn
Absolute.
more about color and what kind of things to put together, because they're now playing with stuff they wouldn't buy.
Absolute.
You go to the quilt store and you gravitate naturally to the colors you like or the
Right.
patterns you like. I go to the quilt store, I always forget to buy stripes and I always forget to buy plaids. I have to actually make a mental note to buy those. I have to actually make a note with the shopping, like buy plaids, buy stripes, right? Because I forget to buy them. But
Right.
you know, having those different textures in your fabric also is useful. But to have them play, have somebody play in your scraps, all of a sudden they're like, oh, this looks good. You know, they start, and they put together your colors differently than you would,
Oh,
right? Everybody
absolute.
sees color differently, right? But they're still learning lots, and you're learning lots too. So it's kind of a win-win situation. And having your, some people get a some gills get a bad rap, and I do encourage people to go to join a guild, because you meet other people with like minds, and you know, try and participate in their sew dates, and try and participate in something that they're doing. You know, volunteers, help outs, even if it's just doing charity quotes. You know, because you learn, you get to know at least one person that's doing the community program, that,
Right.
you know, in your guild. So now you get to know one person, you get to know another one, and you know, another one, and another one. So I mean, yeah, it helps build your friendships with other people.
Absolute.
It can be really intimidating walking in on those meetings if you've never been, but just keep walking in and put a smile on your face and say hello.
Absolute. That is true words to live by, my dear. Well, everyone, thank you for joining Brenda and I today for a sit and chat a spell as we did this interview. Moving forward, if you have any questions for her or I, feel free to send them our way. And when the videos do go live on both of our channels, you'll be able to make your comments and we'll both be answering them. And it's always a pleasure, Brenda. And if you haven't subscribed, slip over, check her out. She's got fabulous content, a lot of interesting fabrics. I love the quilt behind her, and I'm definitely going to be joining in on some more of her sews. I just love it. And thank you for making time once again.
Oh, Donna, this has been a lot of fun for me too. It's nice to meet you yet again, you know, because I know we met just briefly and there was other people and there's lots of other things always going on in those show dates, but it was nice to be able to sit and chat with you too, right? So
Absolutely. I love meeting people and getting to know them. So I'll see you back again in the next go around.
okay, bye.
Bye. Bye, guys.
My husband and I would like to thank you for watching today. We're so happy about the way our channel has grown, and we just want to wish you so well in your journey along with us. Please like, share, and subscribe, and tell your friends. Now, the next thing is this quilt. We are wondering if you guys would like this quilt as a free sew along on this channel this fall, this coming fall, winter. We were kind of thinking that this one would be really fun to do. We could do it in a larger size or a smaller size, it's up to you, but this one was a lot of fun to make. And it lends itself to being hand stitched, but you can also do this on a sewing machine as well. So let us know in the comments below. Remember, share, like, subscribe, tell your friends. Okay, have a great week ahead. Bye!